I think it's absolutely insane that we're in 2023 and we're using important congressional time to discuss gender and whether or not there's a difference between men and women, especially physically, and how that could be related to sports or any type of competition where your physical attributes will carry you to victory. Also don't understand why we letting these people with clear mental illness that want to deny reality, science, facts that are long established and easily provable. Why are we giving these people time of day? Why are we constructing our lifestyles or our time around these people? They are insane. And we're going to see in this video how when people are put to the test and they're forced to answer a question, they really try to do everything they can to not answer it because they know what the truth is. If you're a man, you're a man. If you're a woman, you're a woman. Those are two completely different people. You have two completely different bodies, hormones, etc., etc. To try to act like that's not the case is absolutely bullshit. And I'm sick and tired of these people trying to bullshit us and waste our time by having us try to, I don't know, maneuver our lives around or try to force our way of thinking to change when the way they want us to think makes absolutely no sense. So that's why I don't care when people throw out labels nowadays, because the labels they throw out really means nothing because they give it to anybody who disagree with them. And of course, they're going to disagree with you when you say something so unrealistic, illogical, and just flat out not true. If you think a man and a woman are the same thing, then why is it when a man is getting hit by a woman, oftentimes people really don't step in? But when a man starts to hit a woman, people immediately step in and stop that from happening. Why do we often hear about protecting women and not the other way around? Come on, man. We know what the truth is. All you have to do is look at society and people's actions. But people want to just, I don't know, turn up the bullshit meter or lie to themselves, lie to others, and expect us to just go along with it. Not. And I'm curious to see what Ted Cruz got to say, and if he gets this crazy person defending this gender studies nonsense to actually tell the truth. So let's get into it.
Cruz?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Title IX was a landmark civil rights law. It helped create the incredible breadth of women's sports and girls' sports that we see across the country. I believe in girls' sports. I believe in women's sports. I'm the proud father of two daughters who are both athletes. I think participating in competitive sports is a wonderful thing for a young girl. I think it is a wonderful thing for a woman. And I think, unfortunately, today's Democrat Party has decided that women's sports and girls' sports no longer matters.
I agree.
And they're willing to push radical legislation designed to destroy girls' sports and women's sports. Ms. Gaines, I want to thank you for your courage. You are relatively young, but you have demonstrated incredible courage. And because you have dared to speak up, you have been demonized, you have been vilified. I saw when you were attacked by a leftist mob at San Francisco State University for daring to speak up. You had an incredible record as a swimmer at the University of Kentucky. You were a two-time NCAA All-American. You were a five-time SEC champion. You're an SEC record holder and a two-time Olympic trial qualifier. But yet on March 27th, 2022, something changed. What happened on March 17th, 2022?
That's when Thomas and I raced in the 200 freestyle and again resulted in a tie.
What? It was a
And
guy?
so you tied. What was the consequence of tying?
We went behind the awards podium where typically you're handed your trophy, you're marched out, you're named an All-American. And so we go back there and the official looks at both Thomas and myself and says, "Great job, but you guys tied. And we only have one trophy, therefore we're giving this trophy to Leah." And I question this and I say, why? And at first I shortened it in my testimony, but really he stumbled on his words. He didn't know how to answer this. And at first he's, well, we're just doing this in chronological order. To which I
What?
further pressed and I said, okay, well, what are you being chronological about? Because we tied. And if we're doing this off alphabetical order, G comes before T. So what are you being chronological about? To which this wasn't a script they had prepared for him. And he actually appreciated his honesty. He did say, we have to give the trophy for Leah because Leah has to have it for pictures. They've made that clear. Leah has to have the trophy for pictures.
Are you
can
serious?
pose with this trophy, but you have to give yours back. You have to go home empty-handed. Leah Thomas takes the trophy home. End of story.
Now, let me ask you, as someone who's competed at the elite level, in your experience, is there a difference between women and men?
Of course. I think we learned this at a very young age, watching even 12 and unders play. Going through puberty causes irreversible advantage, that no matter the training, no matter the diet, no matter any alterable change you can make, will overcome that male advantage.
Exactly.
Especially in sports like swimming, where lung capacity matters so much. Even something as silly as throat size, men have on average a 40% larger throat, which sounds like it's nothing, but when you're grasping for air, that 40% larger throat makes a huge difference in athletic success, not to mention height. You guys know the differences.
Ms. Robinson, do you agree with Ms. Gaines that there's a difference between women and men?
If the question is about trans women,
Here we
I'm just
go.
asking, is there a difference between women and men?
Just answer the
what I can
question.
say is that the NCAA has rules in place. They've had rules in place for the last decade, and when this competition
Okay, I'm
happened,
going to try
the
again.
rules were clear.
Do you believe there's a difference between women and men? It's a yes/no question. Do you believe there's a difference?
Oh, I think that we're talking about this case with the NCAA.
No, I'm asking a question. Do you believe there's a difference between women and men? Most people could answer this very simply. I'm curious if you're willing to do so.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just putting it into the context of the
Is that a yes?
conversation that we're having. I think that there are definitions related to sex.
Is
but
that
I
a
also
yes?
think
So I'm
that when
trying to
we're-
get a yes or no. I'm not trying to get a speech.
I'm
Is there a difference between women and men?
I think that there are definitions for biological sex.
Okay, so you're
which
not
is
answering
different
that.
than
Let me ask
gender.
you this question then. Why do women's sports exist? If you can't define a difference between women and men, why not abolish women's sports and just tell little girls to swim with little boys and see who wins?
Oh, I'm simply saying that that sex
My
is different
question,
than gender.
why
and I do
do-
believe
why
that
do
women's
women's
sports
sports
have a great
exist?
value. I mean, Senator, I'll tell you right
Ms.
now.
Robinson, please answer the question I'm asking you.
Absolutely.
Why do women's sports exist?
I think that there are so many positive benefits to sports.
But
I mean,
why have
Oh
a
my
separate category
gosh.
for women?
Oh,
If
just answer the
there's no difference
question.
between women and men, why to have women's sports?
I'm saying that there's a difference between sex and gender, and that the NCAA has rules in place, which they have for the
So,
last decade.
Mr. Chairman,
which
I
determine
would
that
like to enter into
related
the
to
record an
participation.
article from Duke Law called Comparing Athletic Performances for the Best Elite Women to Boys and Men. And it goes through examining in 2017 the top records for women in the world in various track and field events. So, for example, in the 100 meter, the top record for women in the world was 10.71 seconds. Now, that record for the number one woman in the world in 2017 was, in the year 2017, broken by 124 boys under 18. In that same year, the record for the number one competing woman in the 100-meter dash in the world was broken by a total of 2,474 men. If the radical Democrat agenda to destroy girls' sports and women's sports succeeds, little girls will not have a chance to compete. So I ask unanimous consent that this article be entered into the record.
Without objection. Senator Padilla?
Good on Ted Cruz. I don't always agree with him in terms of politics. I've heard about him almost like 10 years now. Well, especially since Trump entered into politics. But either way, regardless of how you feel about Ted Cruz, he's on the money with this. And this woman can't even answer a basic question. She's so fake and phony that she can't even answer a question about, is there a difference between a man and a woman? And you want to talk about sex and gender and all, but that's not what he asked you. Just answer the question. You just know you're full of bullshit, but you want to dodge around and play all these snaky little games and you want to hide in the grass. You know what the facts are. You know what the truth is. Because if this was real life and you was like out in public, and like I said earlier, if a man put his hands on a woman versus a woman putting her hands on a man, she would act completely different in those two scenarios. And the whole idea that she can't even just be upfront and honest in a congressional hearing on public television about something as important as people, women's rights to play sports at a fair level, and she can't even be honest about that. These people like her would sacrifice women being able to do what they want to do and their freedom and their happiness and their competitive drive, they'll sacrifice all that for women for the sake of what 0.02% of the population who claim to be 50 somethings, 57, 5800, whatever gender they feel like that day. That's what I meant earlier about we just letting crazy people dictate everything and take away people's rights or take away people's freedoms or just the I don't know the freedom to compete against other women without having a guy or a big old dude. Because I think I did see a picture like a few months ago of the guy Leah Thomas and about him like competing with women and stuff. And it was so ridiculous, like a football player, like a I don't know, like a tight end trying to compete with girls. Like, come on, bro, you should feel ashamed of yourself for doing something like that. And it's not just him. I think that guy Zuby, he did it as like to prove a point though. It's not like this guy Leah Thomas is actually serious about the bullshit. Zuby, from my understanding, I think he broke a women's world record in powerlifting or something like that. I think it was related to like the gym or fitness. But that's another example of just, a male body being way stronger than a woman's body on average. And he used that easily to break the women's record. But these people don't want to talk about it or denounce it because that means you're acknowledging that men and women aren't the same. And you're acknowledging that there are two genders. These people are so mentally ill. And honestly, who knows how this lady Kelley Robinson, I think that's who it is, HRC president. I assume that means Human Rights Committee. Oh, Human Rights Campaign's right up there. Slow moment. But I can only assume partially that either she really does believe the bullshit she's saying, or she's saying this nonsense and dodging questions because if she said the truth, people are gonna want to kick her out for role. And it's absolutely insane that the human rights president or the human rights campaign president is taking time out of a day to talk about trans people in sports instead of talking about, I don't know, real refugees or atrocities or suffering or human rights stuff that goes on. Like, come on. This is absolutely absurd. Why are we spending time talking about people who can't even figure out what gender they are? Where you have wars and suffering and starvation across the world, and that's real human rights stuff. You have atrocities. You have civilians being killed in Ukraine. Why don't we have more time devoted to that if you're going to devote a human rights committee campaign to anything at all? Not to this transgender nonsense. It's absolutely stupid, but like I said earlier, good on Ted Cruz for, I don't know, just speaking plain old common sense. Because he didn't say nothing crazy. He just said the sky is blue, water is wet. Well, I guess nowadays you have to question whether water is wet or the sky is blue or grass is green when you deal with people who are mentally ill. Who knows? The whole brain could be working like they're on LSD. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. It's your boy Logos, and I'll see you next time. Peace.